that between Chicago Fire, Chicago White Sox, the Chicago Bulls and Blackhawks have expanded their footprint to the 1901 project. I think what it really speaks to is that there's good reason to keep our franchises in the city of Chicago.
Did Ishbia's team outline any, subsidies, public support for what they envision there through?
That was a very more of a broad conversation. Of course, they're going to have asks of the city, but we're not nowhere near that part of the conversation.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
Could you elaborate on which irregularities you are concerned about with the CHA CEO vote? Are we talking about that being a fireable offense, worthy of a lawsuit?
Well, look, this individual that was moved yesterday, many of the board members had not met with him. The community had not met with him. I had never met with him. This was orchestrated by one particular individual, and at a time in which housing is such a critical component of building safer and more affordable communities, we have to have an open and a transparent process where everybody and all the stakeholders get to weigh in.
So what recourse would you have to stop this?
Well, I mean, look, I'm going to take, the necessary measures to make sure that we have an open process, because that's important, right? I mean, look, the people who are closest to this decision did not get a chance to weigh in. And, we cannot subject ourselves to the old style of governance where decisions are made by one individual in a room where the community did not get a chance to engage.
And your the last CTA appointment to fill the last vacancy on the board, can one interpret that to mean that we might see a CTA president appointment before June?
One could.
Thanks.
Hey, Mayor.
Hey.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Are you confident that 4 alders will not flip to Alderwoman Nugent's side, especially given that your budget and education chairs didn't stand with you and your coalition here?
Well, look, standing with Black and brown women, that is the least we can do as elected leaders. What I'm confident in is that as we build the most pro-worker city in America, that's going to benefit the very communities that have been subject to disinvestment. That's what I'm confident in. I will always remain confident with the people. Check it out. If people were comfortable enough running on what we've governed around, then I'm good. And the people of this state actually elected people on the things that we have governed on in this city. That's all the confidence that I need.
And what do you think that the decision by a city council majority for a lot of people to flip and to overturn the effort that they made to freeze this shows? Does it show the size of corporate opposition to your agenda, or is it that you're losing momentum? What is it?
I mean, look, you have to ask them. That question, Jake, quite frankly, I mean, I'm not going to try to get into the psyche of individuals who decide that they're no longer going to stand with Black and brown women. I mean, you have to ask them that. I can tell you emphatically what I'm doing and what I'm going to continue to do. Standing with workers is what this city and what this country needs. Standing with people who have been stuffed in the margins for decades. That's what this moment requires. Maybe that's difficult for other people. And this is not to say that we're not going to listen to the interest of small business owners. Those conversations did not happen, not in a robust way where we can really pinpoint where the challenges lie. And so, look, I just think it's well past time that in the city of Chicago and this country that we have to stand 10 toes down with our sisters. And I'm going to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So even before yesterday's appointment of a CHA CEO from the DC area, our congenital sources have said that yet a third letter has gone from your office to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development asking them to reconsider blocking Walter Burnett's appointment to that position. They also speculate that the letter may have triggered HUD Secretary Scott Turner enough to personally come up to Chicago to see you sometime. if and when that does happen, what would you tell him about Walter Burnett and the other tons of CHA messiness?
Well, first of all, there's been no blockage from the federal government of the former alderman. It's just that there's no blockage, right? There's been questions from the local space of a housing authority around him being a former elected leader. Though former elected leaders around the country have been placed in positions or similar positions of what Alderman Burnett is being considered for. So I just want to eliminate this idea that somehow it's the federal government at the highest level blocking a particular appointment. Here's what people know about Alderman Burnett. He is someone who is as close as you can get to the challenge. He grew up in public housing, an elected leader for 30 years. His entire ward has been transformed as a result of his leadership. And what I'm going to say is that there's a commitment from my administration to ensure that public housing becomes a real benefit for the public, in particular at a time in which we know that we need more and more and more units to continue to drive the cost of housing down, but more importantly, to make sure that working people can have stable, affordable housing.
So to clarify, the HUD has not found him to be a troublesome choice in any shape or form?
No shape, nor form.
Okay, interesting. So since your Black History Month comparison of foundational and legacy blacks to immigrants, which we presume would include IAs as well as potential immigrants, Somalian Minnesotans are demanding reparations at $200,000 a pop for perceived injuries from immigration and customs enforcement raids. So presuming that you and your folks support that kind of restitution for them and other ethnic groups subjected to ICE activity across the states, how long will they have to wait their turn behind descendants of U.S. chattel slaves at the front of the line for reparations?
You're asking me how long Somalians will have to wait for reparations?
Yeah, because foundational and legacy blacks are saying ours first before they get anything.
Okay, that's your opinion?
No, that's not my opinion.
I want to understand, you're asking me how long
will
will Somalians have to wait for reparations?
Yes, I'm asking a question. How long will they have to wait for reparations?
I don't know how long Somalians
reparations.
are going to have to wait for reparations.
Do you think they deserve that?
I mean, look, I can speak to the reparations.
Before.
Thanks, Mark. We got the question.
Look, the reparations task force that we have put together here in Chicago, which I know that my team has gotten information back to you as you've requested, that task force will continue to move forward to provide recommendations on how we respond to the atrocities that descendants of the enslaved Black Americans experience in Chicago. That's what our task force does. As far as any other task force considering reparations for other groups, those reparation groups have existed before. I believe there's been reparations for a number of Asian Americans, right? Jewish Americans, right? Reparations is not a new concept. It's only been met with a great deal of animus when it comes to Black folks and descendants of the enslaved, right? But our focus is going to be on our task force and its responsibility for Black Chicagoans who are descendants of the enslaved. Is that everybody?
That's all good. Thank you, Mark.
All right, is that everybody? All right, very good. Thank you all so much, man. Appreciate you.